We continue Plutarch's Lives, translated by John Dryden, revised by Arthur Hugh Clough, by starting Alcibiades. Alcibiades, as it is supposed, was anciently descended from Eurysacus, the son of Ajax, by his father's side, and by his mother's side from Alcmaon. Dinomaca, his mother, was the daughter of Megacles. His father, Clemius, having fitted out a galley at his own expense, gained great honor in the sea fight at Artemisium, and was afterwards slain in the battle of Crania, fighting against the Boeotians. Pericles and Ariphron, the sons of Xanthippus, nearly related to him, became guardians of Alcibiades. It has been said, not untruly, that the friendship which Socrates felt for him has much contributed to his fame, and certain it is that though we have no account from any writer concerning the mother of Nicias, or Demosthenes, of Lamachus, or Phormion, of Thrasybulus, or Theramenes, notwithstanding these were all illustrious men of the same period, and yet we know, even the nurse of Alcibiades, that her country was Lacedaemon, and her name Amukla, and that Saparas was his teacher and attendant, and one being recorded by Antisthenes, and the other by Plato. Oh, I don't even remember technically how you're supposed to say Plato, Aristotle, and Socrates, because I don't remember how they're spelt. So, well, I mean, I see this English, and I'm trying to sort of make it sound Greek or something, but, yeah, so if I don't pronounce things right, it's not, because there isn't an index here to tell us the Greek names or anything. It is not, perhaps, material to say anything of the beauty of Alcibiades, only that it bloomed with him in all ages of his life, in his infancy, in his youth, and in his manhood, and of the particular character becoming to each of these periods gave him, in every one of them, a grace and a charm. What Euripides says, that of all fair things the autumn too is fair, is by no means universally true, but it happened so with Alcibiades, amongst few others, by reason of his happy constitution and natural vigor of body. It is said that his lisping, when he spoke, became him well, and gave a grace and persuasiveness to his rapid speech. Aristophanes takes notice of it in the verses in which he jests at Theoras, how like a corax he is, says Alcibiades, meaning a corax, on which it is remarked, how very happily he lisped the truth. Archippus also alludes to it in a passage where he ridicules the son of Alcibiades, that people may believe him like his father. He walks like one dissolved in luxury. Let his robe trail behind him on the ground, carelessly leans his head, and in his talk affects to lisp. Now, in Surah 31 of the Quran, it kind of talks against, that behavior too. His natural conduct displayed many great inconsistencies and variations, not unnaturally in accordance with the many and wonderful vicissitudes of his fortunes. But among the many strong passions of his real character, the one most prevailing of all was his ambition and desire of superiority, which appears in several anecdotes told of his sayings, whilst he was a child, Once, being hard pressed in wrestling and fearing to be thrown, he got the hand of his antagonist to his mouth and bit it with all his force. And when the other loosed his hold presently and said, "You bite, Alcibiades, like a woman." "No," replied he, "like a lion." Another time, as he played at the dice in the street, being then but a child, a loaded cart came that way. When it was his turn to throw, at first he called to the driver to stop, because he was to throw in the way over which the cart was to pass. But the man, giving him no attention and driving on, when the rest of the boys divided and gave way, Alcibiades threw himself on his face before the cart, and stretching himself out, bade the carter to pass on now if he would, which so startled the man that he put back his horses, while all that saw it were terrified, and crying out ran to assist Alcibiades. When he began to study, he obeyed all his other masters fairly well, but refused to learn upon the flute as a sordid thing, and not becoming a free citizen, saying that to play on the lute or the harp does not in any way disfigure a man's body or face, but one is hardly to be known by the most intimate friends when playing on the flute. Besides, one who plays on the harp may speak or sing at the same time, but the use of the flute stops the mouth and intercepts the voice and prevents all articulation. Therefore, said he, let the Theban youths pipe who do not know how to speak, but we, Athenians, as our ancestors have told us, have Minerva as our patroness, and Apollo for our protector, one of whom threw away the flute, and the other stripped the flute player of his skin. Thus, between raillery and good earnest, Alcibiades kept not only himself but others from learning, as it presently became the talk of the young boys how Alcibiades despised playing on the flute, and ridiculed those who studied it, in consequence of which it ceased to be reckoned among the liberal accomplishments, and became generally neglected. And well, the playing of musical instruments is said to appease the demons, but the idea of the musical instruments replacing speech and the monotheist tradition is not acceptable. The New Testament condemns secular music of all sorts. The Old Testament can be said to imply that maybe it's the best not to have the sacred music, although, you have plenty of stuff about horns and trumpets and stuff like that, so, the signaling in war and stuff, yeah, sure, but yeah, it's better to use the voice, but there's side references in Judaism about how, not only the book of Ezekiel says that Satan's like a lead musician, but some of these side references say stuff about how, instead of the rituals and the scriptures, Satan came with the music. People talk about Islam as being the one that Judaism, I think, makes it more explicit, but because healing and devotional music, I would say, is fine. With certain contexts and stuff like this, and of course, there's the music of the voice, still preferred in all revealed religion, is the music of the voice. It is stated in the invective which Antiphon wrote against Alcibiades that once, when he was a boy and ran to the house of Democritus, one of those who made a favorite of him, and that Ariphon had determined to cause proclamations to be made for him, had not Pericles diverted him from it by saying that if he were dead, proclaiming of him could only cause it to be discovered one day sooner, and if he were safe, it would be a reproach to him as long as he lived. Antiphon also says that he killed one of his own servants with the blow of a staff in Ortius's wrestling ground, but it is unreasonable to give credit to all that is objected by an enemy, who makes open profession of his design to defame him. It was manifest that the many well-born persons who were continually seeking his company and making their court to him were attracted and captivated by his brilliant and extraordinary beauty only. But the affection which Socrates entertained for him is a great evidence for the natural noble qualities and good disposition of the boy, which Socrates indeed detected both in and under his personal beauty, and in hearing that his wealth and station, and the great number both of strangers and Athenians who flattered and caressed him, might at last corrupt him, resolved if possible to interpose and preserve so hopeful a plant from perishing in the flower before its fruit came to perfection. For never did fortune surround and enclose a man with so many of those things which we vulgarly call, secularly call goods, are, so protect him from every weapon of philosophy, and fence him from every access of free and searching words, as did Alcibiades, who from the beginning was exposed to flatteries of those who sought merely his gratification, such as might well unnerve him and indispose him to listen to any real adviser or instructor. Yet such was the happiness of his genius that he discerned Socrates from the rest and admitted him, and he drove away the wealthy and the noble who made court to him. And in a little time they grew intimate, and Alcibiades, listening now to language entirely free from every thought and unmanly fondness and silly displays of affection, finding himself with one who sought to lay open to him the deficiencies of his mind and repress his vain and foolish arrogance, dropped like the craven cock his conquered